Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Four Chicks Chatting. We are here today to talk about boundaries. And boundaries are one of those things that I think are kind of like saying no.
Wait a minute. They're kind of like saying no. Isn't that the whole definition of a boundary?
I thought you had a cold and weren't going to talk very much.
I know. I'm sorry. I won't say anything else. That's it. I'm done.
Four chicks harassing.
So back to Robin for 1 second so she can finish that thought.
Sorry.
Anyway, I think that boundaries are a little bit like saying no, because we're not very good at that, especially as women, and we're not very good at setting boundaries a lot of times, either in our personal lives or our business life. And especially as entrepreneurs, we tend to think, oh, we need to take every job, take every client. And sometimes that does not work to our advantage. In fact, it's a huge disadvantage. So let's talk about boundaries and what we can do to set effective boundaries while still satisfying our clients' needs and our personal needs.
Well, so if you can figure that out, let me know, because I don't.
Yeah, right. There, let's just all wait and someone figure it out, and then we'll take notes.
And we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
We got nothing.
Wait, let's do this. I have a quote from Brene Brown, who someday she's got to be on Four Chicks Chatting, because that would be hilarious. She says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated.
Check.
So many times I'll say to, especially with my kids, I'll get so frustrated over stuff. And then, because I say yes to them a lot to keep them happy and stop tantrums and all of that. And then I'm overdrawn. I'm done. I'm spent, and I lose my mind. And then I have to stop and think, well, I should have said no. I should have said no to a couple of things. I should have set boundaries earlier, and I wouldn't be feeling like this right now. I think that happens in work too. Colleagues, stuff like that.
I think it's ironic because we tend to think of a boundary as a negative it has a negative connotation, whether it's negative for us or whether we feel like we're keeping people out. But then if we don't institute them, we end up feeling negative. It ends up really having that negative effect on us. And I think you have to, I talk about the whole effect of words and everything. I think we have to tweak what that word means. Maybe we have to add the word protective to it, like a protective boundary.
A bubble?
Looking at it like that. Protect your schedule, protect your sanity. I like that. Remember we talked about no as a complete sentence in one of our early episodes?
Yeah, we did. We did. And I don't think we use that. I mean, we always still feel that need to justify everything. And I think, I think there's a lot I don't think you can escape from that totally as a woman. I mean, I feel like we all don't want to be the B word, the bitch, by just saying no to people. But there are polite ways of saying, I'm sorry, I don't have, what's that word, the bandwidth? I don't have the bandwidth, or whatever people say these days. There's always a phrase, or I just can't fit that in right now, or whatever. But it's still important to say that. One of my big boundaries is no more coffee dates. Not doing that anymore. Not doing that anymore. I mean, unless there's I think you just have to be strategic. We use that word a lot. You have to be strategic about your boundaries too. I hate to say what's in it for me, but what's in it for you?
Well, time is so precious now. So the idea of getting in the car, well, first blowing out your hair, getting in the car to meet this person, within 5 minutes, whether it's a waste of time or not. Get back in the car and come home. It's like, where'd the day go? And what was in it for me? Pretty much nothing but aggravation.
So I saw a post. There's a woman on Instagram that I follow. Actually, I think you follow her too. Shannon Baker, socially savvy.
Oh, I love her.
She's a VA anyway. Yeah. And she did a post on this not long ago about keeping just different strategies to keep those free calls, those introductory calls, free strategy calls, whatever you want to call them, to 15 minutes. And I said, oh my gosh, I so needed this, because those calls always go over 15 minutes. Sometimes they go 30 minutes to an hour. And these aren't people that are going to become clients 9 times out of 10. You know, they're calling, and then as soon as you give them the price, they, well, I just need, or, I just, and it's like, okay, they're not my ideal client because they're not willing to invest in their business. And it really kind of inspired me, I guess, that post, because I have the right to set that boundary to say, timer went off.
Yeah.
Time to hang up.
So maybe is the way to approach that then to have, like to have almost like a script for those calls, and just here are the points that I wanted, and maybe you lay it out at the beginning when you have those calls. Like, here are the points that I want to discuss on this call. Here's how I can assist you, and here are the points that we need to cover. And then once it's done, they either fit into that or they don't.
So here's what I started doing. I have a questionnaire now. So if they book a call with me, they have to complete the questionnaire. So I can see their website right away. So then I know what I'm dealing with in terms of what I could quickly recommend to them, and be efficient with their time and my time, so they get something out of the call. And then, if they're not looking for what I offer, and if they can't answer the questions on the questionnaire, then I know immediately, like, you know what, you're wasting your time, you're wasting my time, or, I'd be wasting my time. So this isn't a good match, but maybe I can refer you to so-and-so. So that's kind of the approach I took, so that I'm not losing those 15, 30, 60 minutes, whatever case it could have been, and neither are they.
And Mary Fran, you probably have something similar to me, the exact opposite. So in our line of work with the book appearances and speaking, I do the opposite. I have a questionnaire that, I'll go in and look and see if somebody pitches an event to me or wants me to speak, then I have my own list of questions to see if it's going to be a fit. And Mary Fran and I have talked about this a lot, like in the very beginning, we had to do a lot of free gigs to get our name out there. And now the time and the element of travel, like I now say, if something is on the West Coast, and this was hard for me when I had to make the switch from, into my next level, if I have to go to the West Coast, there has to be a certain speaker fee amount. The travel has to be paid for, and my fee's a little higher because it takes 2 extra days from my family if I have to go to the West Coast because of travel. And that's tricky. And maybe we should back up for a sec, and for all of those listeners that are just starting and in those first couple of years launching something. I mean, remember when we were all doing that, I said yes to just about everything. And boundaries were hard. Because you had to figure out where you were going to land and get your name out there, and then it's a little easier now to be able to set boundaries, but it was very hard in the beginning.
Well, and I think if you are going to, the other thing to keep in mind is, yes, you do have to say yes to a lot of those things at the beginning. But if you're going to, for heaven's sakes, make sure you get the most out of whatever it is. Like, if you are going to speak, make sure you get pictures. Make sure you get some, kind of stuff.
Email addresses.
Make
sure you have a list, a piece of paper, and pass it around the room to get email addresses. So then you at least have the opportunity to connect with them outside of that event, right?
Yeah, there's got to be something in it for you. There's got to be something concrete in it for you, regardless of whether it's a freebie or not. But especially when you're just starting out, don't think you have to say yes to everything if it's really, there's nothing in it for you.
Yeah. And, we talked in a couple episodes ago, we talked about clarity. And I think this kind of ties into that, because when you're first starting out too, you're not 100% sure a lot of times who your ideal audience is. So, you can do these things for free and then get a really good idea of, oh shoot, that is not my venue. That is not who I want to be speaking to. And okay, so that was a waste of time, but now I have these contacts and I can send my information to them and maybe they'll refer me. But you have to be, eventually that clarity has to come into play, I think, or you lose a lot of the ability to set the boundaries.
Yeah, and I think that happens over time. Like you said, like you figure it out as you go. And we talk about evolving with your work and evolving with everything as you go on. And that consistently means like narrowing it down. Robin, you say a lot about, finding your niching down. And I think that will help you to set up boundaries. But Kath, what do you think about all this? What's your take on the whole boundary thing?
I struggle with it. I struggle with it personally too. I mean, how many times do you say yes to friends and family and events? And it comes down to, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but guess what? Now I'm miserable and I'm going to take it out on somebody else. I'm not going to kick the dog, but
No, not Charlie.
I can't kick Charlie. No, who's saluting the veterans today. If you saw my Instagram story, Charlie's saluting the veterans today. He's very patriotically dressed. But so I really do struggle with kind of drawing that line in the sand, I guess. But we talked about this before too, about setting those expectations. So if I know that this isn't what I'm going to be doing, or if I can say up front, hey, look, I've got 20 minutes for you. That's it. I've set their expectations. Mine are clear. And then we can move on. And one thing I wanted to jump on with you, Robin, you created that questionnaire. Is that a separate document?
Okay. So no, I don't. It's all done in Calendly. So my
That's
calendar.
what I was going to say. Yep. Okay.
That's smart. I didn't know you could even do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. So how does it work? So you go into Calendly.
So somebody sees an Instagram post and they're curious. So they're going to book a free strategy call with me, because 9 times out of 10, that's my call to action at the end of a post. So they go to book a call with me. And then as soon as they book that call, they're sent a questionnaire. And then I automatically get their responses.
That's great.
That's cool. So that's for your branding stuff. Do you do it for headshots too?
I do it for everything. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
You can do up to, I forget how many. I think I've only limited it to four questions because I didn't want to overwhelm them. But it does sift out the people who are serious and the ones who end up being the waste of time. So,
and I think it kind of helps put them on notice too, that this is not just goofing around, like this is a real deal. We're here. I'm here. This is my business. There has to be that level of respect. And I think when you have a piece like that goes out to potential people, it sets that up right away. This is my business. This is serious. I'm not just going to shoot the breeze with you for 45 minutes.
No. And one of the questions is I ask, what are your current business struggles? So it's why are you, how many employees do you have? What's your position in the company, so that I can get as much information in addition to their website.
It gives you a place to start with those calls, I would imagine too then.
Yeah.
You can dive right in as opposed to the initial, so tell me about yourself,
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, people don't always use their name as their brand. So if you go to search for them on LinkedIn or Facebook, you can't always find them because their website is some obscure name, title, or whatever. So then a lot of times if I don't have that information, I can't find out what I can see they need. Like I can't make a recommendation for them to have a headshot on their homepage if I can't even see their homepage.
So Kath, you said something that really struck me, and it was about managing expectations. And I think that holds true whether it's a professional boundary that you're trying to set or a personal boundary that you're trying to set. And I talk about this a lot because, as we all know, I'm older than you guys, but as I've gone through things change. Okay, all right, we get it. But things change. When you're a young mom and you start in a young family, you do everything because you have to. Who else is going to do it? But as the kids get older, the families get older, we have to start peeling away those like little pieces of sticky tape that bind us to everyone else all of the time, and let people do their own stuff and set different expectations. Because if we don't do that and the expectations don't change, of course there's not going to be a boundary because we're not setting it up.
Right. And another boundary too that I've found is I get a lot of times people will say to me, can I pick your brain?
Worst phrase ever. I'm
like, sure, you can book a call with me, and here's my consultation call that actually has a fee. It's like, I can't answer everybody's questions all the time for free because I get nothing done.
Well, and you know what? This is there's always an on the other hand. The other side of that is clearly you have become an expert because people are seeking you out.
Right.
So if people do seek you out and they're asking you certain questions all the time, then that's a piece of something that you can work into your business. So if people are coming to you and saying, hey, can I ask you this, that, or the other thing? So clearly that's a need for a client. But yes, work it into a call or something that is structured and the expectations are managed and you're setting that boundary.
Yeah.
And then if you do say yes to that, Then you turn it around. I always have something for the end of that conversation to say, now, can you do this for me?
Yeah.
Can you turn around and either promote this or send this out or add this to your email or something like that, just so that you're getting something out of it. But that pick and brain, and early on in my nonprofit, I did that. And I still, to some degree, it depends on who's asking, I'll do that. It depends on the credibility that I'll get for working with that person, talking with that person. If I know it's somebody that, I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a productive, nice way. There are folks that if they say, hey, Kristen, can I pick your brain? And I'm like, it's somebody that is either an esteemed colleague or somebody that I'm like, hey, yeah, let's have that conversation, or it's going to go someplace good. And I know the ones that are just sucking the info out of me and are going to use it, or just they have nothing better to do than and I'm doing their job for them in the advocacy field. So I've learned to, and you know what's funny? At first I thought, is it just me, or is this a brain sucker? And then as I was talking with some folks in my field, people were feeling the exact same way about just a handful of folks. And now it's like the antenna's up, But yeah, I used to say yes to all of them. And then it's not cool anymore. It's just not cool. I didn't have the time for that anymore. And, one of the things for me is if I walk away completely frustrated and pissed after being with somebody and then I always check myself now and say, did you set up a boundary in the beginning? Did you, like Kathy said, set the expectation of time and all that? And then I know for the next time to either avoid that person, or one of my little tricks is, because of my nonprofit, so many people, and I'm very blessed by this, want to volunteer their time, which is wonderful. But sometimes you get into it's either the folks that don't have a career and they're looking to be helpful for yours and that kind of thing, or they're retired or whatever. They just have more time on their hands than me. So I have learned one of my biggest things is I don't have any volunteers come to my house anymore. I will meet them somewhere so I can exit when I need to exit.
Yeah, it's a good move.
That's so smart.
Boundary.
Yeah.
Plus my house is usually upside down. And I don't want them to know, but that's one thing that worked for me. That was one little tweak that I still met with all those folks, but I just do it somewhere else.
Well, it's like a control thing, right? You remain in control. I think when we create the boundaries, we force ourselves to remain in control and not give it the power over to somebody else.
You said something else that, I'm sorry, Robin. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Oh, I just said that's so important.
Yeah. You said something, Kristen, that really struck me. And you said something about your antenna. And I think we have to all make sure that we tune into that, because right? In your gut, like Kathy, you said, like you're in a conversation for 5 minutes and if it's something that's going to be valuable or not. If your antenna is up, and it always should be, and you're feeling like this is bad, just start thinking of a way to end it. And that way to end it can be anywhere from, like Kristen said, meet somewhere else and you go, look, I'm so sorry, I got something booked, I got to be out of here, blah, 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 or whatever. Or, again, on the call, hey, our 15 minutes is up, I have another call I have to take, just something. But keep your antenna up and don't rationalize yourself into giving away more than you need to.
Yeah, 100%, because inevitably they will take that information instead of paying you for your expertise. They'll take it somewhere else and have a friend do it for them or do it themselves. I've had that happen numerous times.
You always have your wingman call you and say, hey, call me in 15 minutes.
Like you're on a bad date.
Yeah. Like, oh, I got to go. Oh, my God, look at this. Got to go.
Gotta go.
Oh, damn. I forgot I got to get somewhere. That's hilarious.
Yeah. All right, chicks. With that, let's take control of this episode and set a boundary for our exit strategy.
I just put a line in the sand, kids. You can't see it, but we're done here. Well,
the antenna are up and this is no longer productive. We are finished.
We're finished here. Brilliance bombs, ladies.
Don't let others take the control or the power. Just keep the power. Fight the power. Keep the power.
I'll say from the other side of the coin, don't be the brain picker. Don't be the time sucker. If you don't know how to set boundaries, that's fine. You can work on that, but don't be that person.
Because we're all going to talk about
it. And jumps all over the boundaries. Be a giver, folks. Be a giver.
Bob Berg, be a giver. And I think use boundary as a positive term in your life. It's protection. It's protection for you. It's protection for your family. It's protection for the things that are important to you.
And I'll say have clarity on what your expectations are so that you can communicate those up front.
I think she just combined 4 podcasts in that one sentence.
There you go.
Go back, everybody, and look up those podcasts by those words, and maybe we'll all make sense someday if it all comes together.
We'll reference all that in the show notes, folks.
There you go.
Hashtag boundaries are brilliant. There you go.
I like that.
All
All
right,
right,
everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in. Please find us on that social thing. And if you could be so kind as to leave us a review, we would really, really appreciate it. And follow us and chat with us. We'd love to hear all of your comments and send us any notes on topic ideas too. And that's a wrap. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.